Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. With us now is the Chairman Emeritus of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Representative Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, Republican from Florida. And Representative, so nice to see you again. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, Kathleen, thank you for the invitation, and I love Newsmax. Thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you so much. Well, Secretary of State John Kerry meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today. Israel and the U.S. differ over Iran's nuclear program. Israel is calling for its dismantlement, and the U.S. is suggesting that safeguards could show that it is peaceful rather than military. Do you support the U.S. position here as it relates to Iran, and should the U.S. and the West ease sanctions?
I think it's a dangerous path when we think that Rouhani, the new leader of Iran, is someone with whom we can build trust, we can have a positive relationship. It worries me greatly. I prefer the Israeli approach, which is tough. The Israeli approach is dismantle this nuclear program or we will dismantle it for you. I believe that sanctions have been effective and U.S. sanctions must continue. I don't think that this is the time to ease up on U.S. sanctions. We should ratchet up the pressure. We know that what Rouhani was sent to do is to do his charm offensive, smile a lot, lie, cheat, and steal, and as a way of trying to get the U.S. to undo sanctions. We should not fall for what I call the Rouhani ruse. It is a ruse. He is the master of deceit. He is the negotiator who built the nuclear program. Why would we think that this is a time to negotiate with this man?
So you absolutely believe the Iranians are not sincere about negotiating on their nuclear program at all?
I know that the Iranian regime is not sincere. I think that Benjamin Netanyahu said it quite clearly when he said, with Ahmadinejad, he was a wolf in wolf's clothing. Rouhani is a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I think the Prime Minister characterized Rouhani well when he said what he's learned is that Rouhani knows the West. He's going to smile. He's going to give us platitudes. We like to hear, because the Americans, we're noble people, and we think that others have a noble heart as well. And what Iran wants to do is to buy time. They're going to give up something meaningless and say they've sacrificed a lot. So U.S., how will you reciprocate? What sanctions will you ease up on so that we can in good faith negotiate? These talks are a failure. Concessions are dangerous failure. And I believe that we should get tougher with Iran rather than ease up on the pressure.
Saudi Arabia is threatening to scale back its alliance with Washington over the United States' recent overtures with Iran and the administration's perceived weakness in dealing with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. What do you see as the fallout of the administration's policy on Iran?
Well, I believe that all of our allies are looking at the UN posture and the U.S. posture. If they see that the UN is going to ease up on its sanctions, then they're going to be very skeptical about what is really going on. And if they see that the U.S. is also going to ease up on sanctions, what all of these allies will say is, wait a minute, then we'll keep doing business with Iran. We will keep bartering with Iran. You know, Russia wants to really flex its muscle when it comes to Iran. It's done so with Syria. And we've got to remember that Iran is a murderous regime, just like Syria is a murderous regime. Look at the high number of executions that Iran has taken against people in the past few months. This is a horrid regime, a serial human rights abuser. They don't have free elections. The Ayatollah is the one who controls everything. And we're thinking that Rouhani is the guy who's pulling the strings. His strings are being pulled by the mullahs, by the Ayatollah. So I believe that Saudi Arabia will soon have nuclear weapons, because if the Saudis see that Iran is going to get away with having nuclear weapons, they in Saudi Arabia have the financial wherewithal to build up such an arsenal. And we will have an arms race that will have no end in sight. This is dangerous for our ally, the Democratic Jewish State of Israel. It's dangerous to our U.S. national security interest in the region as well.
Today marks the 30th anniversary of the Beirut Marine Barracks bombing, the first major terrorist attack on U.S. interests, which killed 241 U.S. Marines. No perpetrators were ever brought to justice, even though the attack was blamed on Hezbollah, which is funded by Iran. Now, President Obama, in a bid to reconcile with Tehran, has blocked legislation that would hold Iran accountable for the bombing. How do you view this?
Well, what we need to do is we need to really follow the money. We need to follow the money in every one of these terrorist attacks. And you will see that the money always links back to Iran. They have the financial infrastructure to fund jihadist organizations, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's whatever it is, any terrorist group that seeks to undermine the United States and our national security interests will have Iran's fingerprint on it. Today is a sad anniversary of the murder of so many patriots, and we keep commemorating it, sadly. But we need to do is find the perpetrators and bring them to justice. I find it quite disheartening that we have one terrorist attack after another, and rarely do we catch the bad guys and hold them accountable. And we need to follow the money. These kinds of terrorist acts can only be done if you have the terrorist financing. And that's why I congratulate the individuals who work at agencies like OFAC. That this is an organization that tracks the money laundering, and the financing of terrorist bombings. So we will not give in, we will never give up, and we will find those responsible and hold them accountable.
Last question for you, Representative. President Obama today meets with Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif at the White House. The U.S. plans to give more than $1.5 billion in assistance to Pakistan for programs that had been blocked because of tension between the two nations over events including the Navy SEAL raid that killed Osama bin Laden inside Pakistan. Should the U.S. be giving more than $1 billion to Pakistan right now?
I believe that because of our domestic economic urgency needs, this is not the right time to give such a huge amount of money to Pakistan. Yes, we do need Pakistan because it's a vital route to make sure that we can get all the help that we need to our fighting men and women overseas. So we need the cooperation of Pakistan to help us with this fight against to dismantle the terrorist infrastructure worldwide. But I think that we can do that without having to buy love and support. When I go home and I tell my constituents in a very international city in South Florida that we're going to give all of this money to Pakistan, when we have had some difficult times with Osama bin Laden being housed there, and no one knew that Osama bin Laden was there, with the raids that have taken place, etc., that have put our lives at risk. I believe that there's a lot of skepticism about whether there's true accountability for these funds, whether there's transparency. So I believe that strongly that you can't buy love. We have a good relationship with Israel. We have, and it's not because we buy love, it's because our interests are aligned. And if that's the kind of relationship that we need to do is buy love from the Pakistanis, they're just going to go to the highest bidder. We need to build relationships based on trust, confidence, and shared values. And we understand that the enemy of Pakistan is also the enemy of the United States. They want to tear down that country just like they want to tear down the United States. But I'm against giving all of that aid to Pakistan. We need their help, but surely we can find a better way to get that cooperation.
All right, Representative Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, Republican from Florida. As always, great to speak with you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.